Alright, so here we are starting the fourth turn in La Revolution Francaise. We're looking at, since this is the fourth turn, the fourth and eighth turns are election turns, assuming the government doesn't change. If the government changes, there may be an automatic election anyway, but I think there may be some cases where there's not an election when a government changes. But this would be a normal election turn on the legislative in most branches, or most regimes. Okay, so we had some events. The Montaigne and Gironde went up in fame. We got the total order of play, which kind of indicates how you're doing victory-wise, minus certain special advantages. So, for example, the Filons have like a +5 for the simple fact that the legislative's in session. And I think they get 5 more because the king's alive. So they're doing quite well. Something the Marais are not happy with. So the Marais are looking, along with everyone else, to change the regime. And the Royalists are fine with that because so far the legislative gets them in less trouble. Once they move to the convention or the terror, there's going to be a bigger coalition entry. And the government's in kind of questionable shape. So they could get in a lot of trouble and end up with a royalist victory. If the government goes bankrupt, the royalists win, or if the royalists hit their automatic victory conditions, which I think is like 12 provinces. Right now we're at 5. Lille and Amiens, Nantes, Angers, and Cholet. Okay, so everybody picked, in addition to where they're located, but they picked what their plans are for the turn. And we have the government planning a victory at Amiens. And the reason for that, this is the Gironde government, we're already going to have instituted the convention, or maybe the terror, by the time this happens. So, might as well get rid of that risk to Paris. Now, if we can lower, if the Gironde can lower the commune to below level 2, they can ensure that only the convention gets installed. What are the plans here? The Filons and the Royalists are going to plot Nîmes. The Gironde want to suppress Lyon and get rid of that revolt. That's good for everyone except the Sans-Culottes, who may try to chase them out because they're an illegal. The Sans-Culottes are not represented, so they're allowed to do some skullduggery. The Marais are also plotting Nîmes, just because it looked like the easiest thing for them to do. And they do not want the Filons doing too well there. Who is it? The Montaigne are going to plot Metz, which as of right now, assuming that Brunswick doesn't recuperate his army, is a pretty safe location. The coalition armies are not going to go into Metz. And then the Sans-Culottes have a plan to install the terror. For this, they need to maintain control of the commune, have it raised, and have it at level 2 or 3. Right now it's at those levels. I'm not sure if they could have allied with the Montaigne on this. But the Montaigne cannot really help the chances. So it seemed unreasonable to really let them ride the Sans-Culottes' tail there. Although they could give cash to the Sans-Culottes. See, the Montaigne is able to cause the same effect, but only if the commune's up to level 3. And it's not there, and I don't see any likelihood that it would get there. But they are potentially capable of doing this, so I think they could have tagged along with it. Anyway, we'll go on with the actions at this point. So some interesting actions took place. The Sans-Culottes managed to raise a revolt in Bourget, and the Gironde managed to remove revolts in Lyon and in Orleans. And they got control of both. Over in Paris, the Girondins removed the Commune. They quelled the Commune. A decent amount of money was spent on that because they do not want to see the terror happen. If they can't get to the convention, they would rather stay in the legislative. However, the Sans-Culottes asked for $100 from the Montagne, which they got. Gave them 2 rolls. They rolled a 12 to convert Paris. Now they needed a lot less than that. They raised the Commune under their control, and because they got a 12 natural, their renown went up. So now we're going to go into the political phase, and things are going to change because we're going to be in a different regime. We'll get to that in a moment. Okay, so after the elections and the installation of the terror, the game has changed significantly, and I think it's taken a branch that I've never seen it take before. This is actually common to when I'm doing these videos. This has to be at least the 3rd game where I've seen very different results than I'm used to. Maybe because of the years that have been in between since the last time I played, that I'm not following the same patterns in a lot of these. But anyway, we saw it with Korea and something else where there was vast changes. Here we're seeing it again. First of all, we had elections. Now these don't really matter. The Gironde won the election hands down, I believe. Maybe not. Both they and the Marais have 9 assembly members. These should be, yeah, those are the Foulons. They have 5. The Sans-Culottes have 2. The Montagne have 1. But it's the terror. And that means the Montagne own the government. And that means, because it's the terror as well, that it doesn't really matter how many votes you have here. Those are worth victory points at the end of the game, etc. But they don't actually affect what's going on very much. So, what happens with the terror? Only the Montagne and the Marais are officially in the government. First of all, we're not going to vote laws anymore. Instead, the Montagne proposes laws. The Marais has a 2-point modifier on those laws. Everyone else who's present at all has a 1-point modifier. Depending on who's in Paris, there are a couple of leaders who Robespierre and Saint-Just. If they're in Paris, they can give bonuses to the Montagne's chance of a law happening. +2 each. That to 1 law each. That is a. It doesn't require the Montagne to control them. So even if they switch sides, they still provide that benefit. Some other little benefits. There are terrorists, Bilal Verein, Collot de Hebard, and Barrère, who give a bonus to suppressing revolts and arresting people, as long as they're present in the region that it's happening. And finally, Carnot can be sent to command armies, and he gives a +1 bonus, which makes him as good as another army, basically. If he's sent to do that, doesn't matter who controls him, that's all he does for that turn, is he's leading armies. Okay. So, lots of interesting little things going on here. There's also the possibility of coups, which could have happened this turn. The Sans-Culottes, if they had the money, could have thrown a popular coup to install the Wrath, which they won. That's sort of an extreme version of the terror. If you could imagine something worse than the terror, it would be almost a continual existence of the terror, and it's run by the Sans-Culottes and by the terrorists. So that actually outlaws the merciful members and causes some serious problems. Alternatively, the Marais have the possibility if they can get France into a state of foreign peace or civil peace, and right now it's not either. We got the armies on the board, which make a foreign war, and we've got more than 4 revolts, because there were Federalist revolts. The Gironde were expecting the convention, didn't get it, and all the areas they controlled went into revolt. So we've got just revolts running throughout because they had become kind of powerful before this. That's putting France in a lot of danger. That's putting the risk of the RAF being installed, which the Montagne don't even want. They want to maintain the terror for as long as they have to, and once they get things to a state of peace, they want to install the Republic One and Indivisible, which would be really a centralized state, run by the people, of course. And that's sort of their best outcome. So right now, the goal of the Montagne is, let's get this out of foreign or civil war. One of the two. Let's end that. We saw some of the ratings go up. We saw the dissident clergy increase, and also the coalition, but they were so far up it doesn't really matter. We saw a couple of people in Paris of the Gironde party arrested. They will probably lose their heads. Get somebody else who's probably going to lose his head. There goes the king. Good chance we'll have the trial of the king. So, this is kind of where we are right now. I'm going to pick the laws, and those, instead of being voted for, are just rolled over on the resolution chart. And right now, the Montagne's goal is to try to quell things a little bit so that the Sans-Culottes cannot get the amount of power they have. I have never seen this jump over the convention this way directly into the terror. Somehow getting the commune up high enough. It was a bit of a rarity, actually. Alright. Okay, so we made our way through the first government phase under the terror, and what happened? The first thing is the government tried to pass conscription, and that failed. The government, and that reduces the government's fame. You'll see the fame markers are all over the place now. The government's only allowed to fail twice, and after that, after the second failure, the Marais have the option to install the Directorate, which is essentially, actually no, to install the Thermidor, which is the route to the Directorate. And that's the Napoleonic regime, essentially, or at least the path to it. So the Montagne are treading on dangerous ground. They made a mistake. They should have done Fatherland in Danger first. So then they ruled on Fatherland in Danger. That passed, barely. They used their Robespierre bonus, and they got help from the Sans-Culottes, who were not willing to support the conscription, actually, because they want things to be ugly still. But they probably didn't really want a law to fail either. It's really a tough situation at this point, the decisions to be made. So if there had already been a failure, the Sans-Culottes probably would have supported the Montagne on this, but they were willing to try to break that law and succeeded. And then the final thing was the trial of the king. And the king was executed, and that's why we're seeing the fames change all over the place. The Girondins, the Filons, the Royalists, they've all gone down, whereas the Sans-Culottes and the Montagne have gone up. Because Fatherland's in danger, anyone who opposes any law, including things like the trial of the king, takes a point of fame loss. So it's very hard to decide where you're going to make your stands. And then we went to criticism of the government. There is none. It's the terror. You criticize the government, you lose your head. And then we go to the justice phase, and everyone in prison died, which is a couple of Girondins. Prison becomes very dangerous in the terror, and you want to avoid it. Well, if you care about your people, which you may not. All right, now we go to the military step, and we've got new stuff on the board. We've got the Spanish coming in. We've got the Sardinians coming in. We've got English showing up, coming in, the Duke of York's army. And of course, we've got the chance of Brunswick coming back. But bigger than all of this, perhaps, well, maybe not bigger, but also in effect, although the Royalists have no money right now, is dissident clergy's gone up to the level where the Royalists can start raising their own armies. And that's going to put things into a very, very tricky situation. The way the government is, the amount of money that it's lacking. We've got a definite issue here. So we'll see what happens. After the end of 4 turns, the revolutionary armies are not doing that well. Over in Paris, they engaged and did not defeat at 2-to-1 odds. And same thing over in Strasbourg once again. And we've got Toulouse, Montpellier, Marseille, all have fallen, along with Amiens and Lille. Bad situation for the revolution as it stands right now. With all the revolts in place, with all the areas militarily controlled, they're at minimal money. They pulled $500. That's it. The only saving grace is fatherland and danger has been passed. That means people can throw money at the government whenever they like. Now, obviously, the Royalists aren't going to do this because they win if the government goes bankrupt. But pretty much everyone else, except maybe the Foulons, I mean, even the Girondins, want, and they have a ton of money. They pulled, I think, 1,700 this turn, because they really did gain a lot of power just before that election. Even the Girondins do not want to see the Royalists win. The Foulons, if we look at the victory status, they can't win the game if the Royalists win. But their chances of winning are very low if anyone wins. And, well, this is pretty ugly. If the Royalists win, the Foulons come in second, but they actually come in 5th. Everyone else comes in 6th. So even the Foulons are probably going to look and say, look, if we were playing some kind of convention game or something, if we can get it back into the legislative, well, that can't happen. But if we can get it into the Thermidor, or if it's in the Terror, as long as the Marais win, we're not that bad off. We don't want the Gironde to win. We don't want the Montagne or the Sans-Culotte to win. But at this point, the Foulons are looking at, okay, if we can get it into pretty much anything with the Marais in the lead, we can come in moderately well. And if we can get it over to the Thermidor, we can actually win the game. And that is represented as well. Oh, I'm sure that's speeded on my lovely chart. If we look at the equivalent, for the Directorate, basically the Marais and Foulons both have a shot at winning there. And the Thermidor, I believe, is the same situation. Oh no, the Thermidor, the Girondins can actually still win. Just weird little situations there. But, yeah, if we can get it into those kind of positions, the Foulons can still win. So, everyone except the Royalists is opposed to them at this point. It's just a question of how much you're opposed to them. And that's a hard call. All right, I'm going to wrap this one up because it's gone a long time. There's no question there.